Bonn, Germany, 1770. Home to cobblestone streets, fancy wigs, and oh, look, a baby Beethoven. Yes, that grumpy-looking infant is none other than Ludwig van Beethoven himself. Who would have thought he'd become one of the greatest composers the world has ever known? Little Ludwig's home was interesting, to say the least. His dad, Johann, was a singer who believed in tough love, or let's say tough teaching. Oh, and he was an alcoholic, so not a great combination. Johann's dream? To make money. Lots of money. He decided the best way to do this was to make Ludwig a child star, like Mozart. So Beethoven's childhood was all about practicing and performing. Oh, and a healthy amount of tough teaching. However, Beethoven had different dreams. Dreams of creating beautiful music. Dreams of not being whipped for messing up his scales. Yes, Johann would make little Beethoven stand on a stool to reach the piano keys and would whip him every time he messed up. Let's just say crazy parents aren't a new phenomenon. So Beethoven went off to Vienna, where powdered wigs were all the rage. Side note, powdered wigs were absurd. No one washed them and they're filled with parasites and lice and just a bunch of gross stuff. And they smelled too. Anyway, this is where Beethoven studied with the legendary Haydn, who apparently constantly criticized Beethoven to the point where Beethoven got so annoyed that every time he spoke of him afterward, he would say that Haydn never taught him anything. Now, some of these criticisms may have been warranted because Beethoven was essentially rewriting the classical music rulebook. He was bold, dramatic, and daring. His third symphony bridged the gap between classical music and a new era of romantic music. Beethoven dedicated this symphony to none other than Napoleon. But after Napoleon declared himself Emperor of France, Beethoven got mad, really mad, and threw a tantrum scribbling out Napoleon's name off his manuscript. After his fifth symphony, that one. Beethoven began noticing his hearing was getting worse and worse, so he started carrying around ear trumpets, which were all the rage in the early 1800s for people going deaf. They were these metal instruments that you would put into your ears where people would speak into them and hopefully amplify their words as much as possible. To compose his ninth and final symphony, Beethoven would press against his piano to hear the vibrations of the sound waves. But the majority of his composing came straight from his head, so he wrote a whole symphony in his head. Ludwig van Beethoven, a man who faced unimaginable challenges, a composer who followed his dreams, a rule breaker who changed the world.